ChatGerry, a philosophical reflection of my research mind, number 1661, VPT 128, 529-2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, category Philosophy. Preface for readers: eat more protein and vegetables, eat less red meat and processed food, reduce portions if overweight, eating a little less will not hurt you, overeating for yours will. Exercise daily, walk at least 7,000 to 8,000 steps, drink 85 to 100 oz to 0.5 to 3.0 liters of water daily. Sleep 6 to 7 hours each night. Manage stress, avoid draining people and unnecessary conflicts, put your health first. Wealth, fame, and power mean little without health and life. My reflection: many readers know me through my diabetes, stroke, aging, and VMT studies. Some know me through my work in artificial intelligence, engineering, or business. Fewer people know the deeper question that has followed me throughout my life. How do we truly understand a human being? This question eventually led me to write this philosophical reflection. In my own mind, my research methodology traces back to Isaac Newton, not because I study gravity or calculus, but because I admire the way Newton approached problems. His greatest contribution was not simply a formula. It was a way of thinking. Newton taught us that systems are governed by interactions. Before we can understand a system, we must first define its variables. Then we must understand how those variables interact. Finally, we must examine the outcome produced by those interactions. This simple way of thinking influenced much of my later work. Over the years, I developed viscoplastic medicine theory (VMT) and later viscoplastopology (VPT). Whether I was studying diabetes, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, stroke, aging, or psychology, I found myself repeatedly asking the same question: what are the key variables? And how do they interact? This systems-oriented mindset eventually led me to an unusual observation. Traditional medicine is generally more objective than psychology because it possesses many direct measurement tools. Physicians can measure blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol, kidney function, heart function, and many other biomarkers. Psychology is different. Psychologists often rely on interviews, observations, questionnaires, behavioral patterns, and personal histories. These approaches can be extremely valuable, but they are generally more subjective than measuring blood glucose or blood pressure. As I studied psychology, I began wondering whether some psychological conditions might also be viewed as interacting systems. This thought led me to a simple experimental framework involving 3 variables: abandonment, distrust, and masking. I am not claiming that these variables can currently be measured directly. They cannot. Instead, they are estimated through observations, behavioral patterns, personal history, and life outcomes, similar to many early scientific models. These variables function as proxies rather than precise measurements. From this perspective, I propose a simple relationship: TSI psychology equals abandonment times distrust times masking times 100. The purpose of this formula is not to diagnose people. Rather, it provides a structured framework for examining how multiple psychological factors may interact and amplify one another. Whether this framework ultimately proves useful remains to be seen. At its current stage, it should be viewed as a conceptual model under development. As I continued reflecting on these ideas, I realized that my intellectual journey followed an interesting path. Newton influenced Griffith. Griffith influenced Norman Jones. Norman Jones influenced me. Newton extended mechanics. Griffith extended fracture mechanics. Jones extended dynamic plasticity. I extended these concepts into the study of human physiology and pathology, body health, and human psychology, mind health. Yet something unexpected happened along the way. The more I studied science, the more interested I became in subjects that were not scientific. I found myself reading on philosophy, literature, and history. At first this seemed contradictory. Why would someone trained in mathematics, physics, engineering, artificial intelligence, and medicine spend increasing amounts of time reading philosophy, history, and literature? Eventually I realized there was no contradiction. Science and the humanities answer different questions. Science explains how systems work. The humanity helps me understand what those systems mean. Science can explain how neurons fire, how blood vessels age, how glucose damages tissue, and how diseases progress. But science alone cannot fully explain purpose, compassion, suffering, memory, hope, love, or the meaning of a human life. The closer we move toward human experience, the harder it becomes to measure everything objectively. Human beings are far more complex than bridges, ships, airplanes, semiconductors, or computers. That realization became even clearer after my stroke. My stroke forced me to think not only about physiology but also about memory, recovery, resilience, purpose, and the value of helping others. During the past 17 years of post-retirement research, I have gradually become less interested in defending academic disciplines and more interested in understanding systems. When I studied diabetes, I looked beyond glucose. When I studied stroke, I looked beyond blood pressure. When I studied psychology, I looked beyond symptoms. Now, I find myself looking beyond equations themselves. I am not abandoning mathematics, physics, engineering, AI, or medicine. Those disciplines remain powerful tools for understanding structure, mechanisms, and interactions. However, they do not fully answer every important human question. Looking back, I realize that my intellectual journey mirrors my life journey. I began as a mathematician and engineer. Later, I entered artificial intelligence and high-technology business. Then came medicine, health, pathophysiology, and stroke neuroscience research. Meanwhile, my interests gradually expanded into psychology, philosophy, literature, and history. Perhaps that progression was natural. Perhaps a lifetime spent studying systems eventually leads one to ask not only how things work, but why they matter. This paper begins with Isaac Newton, but it ultimately ends with my deep belief in humanity, compassion, and the value of helping others. Today, I have gradually come to believe that this may be the only way for me to better understand the human system. Mathematics and physics reveal the structure, but the humanities reveal the meaning. Epilogue for readers: I write this article not to promote a theory, but to share a personal journey of learning. If there is one lesson I have learned from science, business, medicine, illness, recovery, and life itself, it is that knowledge has little value unless it helps people, including my own health and happiness. Take care of your health, protect your mind, continue learning, help others whenever you can. After a lifetime of study, work, success, failure, illness, and recovery, I have gradually come to believe that meaning matters more than achievement, compassion matters more than success, and health matters more than money. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.